We'll just do one last sanity mic check. Make sure nothing horrible has happened in the last 10 minutes. Just making sure, better safe than sorry. Sounded good? Sounded good? Perfect.
That's so funny Doug brought that up. That was a fun podcast, wasn't it? I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna listen to this whole thing. I'm like, I listen to it.
Yeah, I listened to most of it. I like skipped through a few parts, but I listened to most of it.
You skipped an Ari without me.
No, I actually did. I listened to you. I listened to yours.
I listened to the whole damn thing. Okay, people listening.
Not for you. You don't think I listened to his part? I still want to go back and listen to the parts that I did.
He's a little more free just to
That 15. Yeah, that 15.
Oh yeah. I'm actually gonna have this is a Pat suggestion. I'm actually gonna have Doug on our podcast Monday to talk about when you talk about it. That's kind of like a reaction to
What we talked about.
the echo chamber.
We can all keep creating content for each
Creating our
other.
own news cycle here.
Then you like that.
Oh.
As illustrated by people saying no, the dispatch guys were got a little more in depth.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like when I'm sitting in here, I'm one of the pips. Maybe that microphone. Pips? Yeah, the backup singers. Gladys Knight and the Pips. You never heard of Gladys Knight and the Pips? No. You're not much on historical music, are you? Gladys Knight's only one of the great entertainers of all time. No, I don't. Did you hear of Bear Bryant? You ever heard of Bear Bryant? Bear Bryant.
Alrighty, we'll open up the floor for questions for Coach Dave. Second row middle, Dave Middle, 24/7 Sports.
Thanks, Jerry. Ryan, so many young guys playing and playing well. Is this kind of what you expected? I know you guys knew you had a special freshman class, but this many guys playing and playing big roles?
No, probably not this much, like you said. But I just think back on the conversations we had in the spring and the preseason going into this year, feeling like there was a little bit of a gap of playing time coming off of last year, and trying to figure out what that was going to be like this year, because we had so many unknowns of guys who either are in the program 2 and 3 years who didn't have experience, or the young guys coming in. And so there's a lot of competition going on across the board, and that's the good thing. And I think you're starting to see guys settle into roles.
How is CJ feeling, and are you confident he'll be able to play this week?
We'll see how today goes. I thought the week helped him, and it sounds like it's going in the right direction. So we're hoping for a great day of practice today.
Yeah, Ryan, just to follow up on that, if CJ is fully healthy in your mind, is he your starter on Saturday?
Yes.
You were asked about, a lot of the young guys playing. Like, when you look at that, do you feel like you need those young guys to keep coming and play bigger and bigger roles as the season progresses, if this team is going to achieve its goals this year?
Yeah, and I think that in 4 games you've seen a lot of progress across the board, but there's still a lot to be done. And if we're going to get to where we want to be this season, then these guys are going to have to continue to build. And it's everybody. It's not just the young guys. It's the older guys who maybe haven't played as much either. And it's just continuing to get back to work. And, I think sometimes you go into a season with certain expectations of what's going to come, and whether it happens or not, that's, unique to each individual. But working and putting in days of work every day is what's critical, and just grinding through all that. And so here we are back in conference play, and I think we're better than where we were 4 weeks ago.
Just one more thing about the quarterbacks, assuming he is feeling a little sore. Are you giving Kyle any first-team reps at all this week, just as a security blanket, just in case CJ's not ready to go on Saturday?
I mean, we spread the reps around, and we'll just see how everybody's feeling this week, and then we'll kind of go from there. But typically the way that we do it is, whoever's starting in that game will typically get the majority of the first-team reps.
Ryan, you said after the game you wanted to wait to review Kayvon Pope and some of the details surrounding that incident. What ultimately made you want to go in the direction to dismiss him from the team?
Yeah, I mean, there was an incident there that, we addressed, and, he's removed from the team. And so, our focus right now is on Rutgers. But, there has to be consequences for actions. And certainly, for him, his emotions got a little bit out of hand there. And, I thought he's done a good job of taking accountability, and we'll focus on moving forward.
Second row left, Nathan, Cleveland.com. Nathan Barrett.
With the quarterback evaluation, how do you, at this stage of the season, I assume it's kind of going on all the time, but balancing that, the difference between who's better right now and who might be better in November? Like what is going on with that, and how do you assess that?
Yeah, I mean, just do it like you do every other position. You try to project the best you can based on what you see in practice, and then, what you're going to see in a game. And you do whatever you think is best to go win the game that week. And so that's what we're doing. You look every day at practice, and hopefully there's growth along the way. And so that's what we're going to do. I mean, we have 3 young guys that are, doing this all for the first time. And so while that can be, a challenge, it's also good because everything you're investing, you're hoping to get back in the future.
Part of who you decide to start each week, who's going to be, who that helps more in November? Do you see what I'm asking there, or is it all just about who is the best quarterback for this next game?
Yeah, I think that you always want to plan for the future, and it's not really about saying like what's exactly going on this week. Is what's your body of work going to be by the end of the season?
Second row right, Austin Ward, Letterman row.
Ryan, does the in-game, I know this is a little bit of a hypothetical, does the in-game decision-making change at all at quarterback? Before the first 3 weeks, Kyle had just never been on the field, so you probably didn't want to put him in that situation. Now that he's started, will that, enter your thoughts on a game day if CJ's struggling or looks hurt or anything like that?
No, not any more than it was a couple weeks ago. I think now it's great to have reps under our belt so that we know what we have. But I've said from the beginning it's going to take all 3 guys to get through the season, and it's already week 4, and all 3 guys have played. So again, we'll assess it this week and see how guys are feeling and go from there.
Not just at your team, but Clemson or Oklahoma when they struggle. It seems to be a trend across college football. Do you think you can only talk about your own team, I guess, but how much of that is what everybody went through a year ago? Are we underestimating how significant that is for players?
I think you bring up a good point. I think that for us, certainly there's been a little bit of a recalibration because coming off of last season, there was a lot of missed play and missed reps. And so you came into this season with a lot of guys competing for a lot of spots. And, and the truth is, at the end of the day, we have a lot of great guys in our program and a lot of guys who have worked really, really hard, in our program. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how you perform. And, I think we have a great group of guys who are working really, really hard, and they're going to continue to do that. And the more that they understand this is about our team and not just about them, I think is very, very important. I think there's been a lot of changes as well in college football in certainly the last year, but in the last 2 to 3 years. That combined with everything that went on with COVID, yeah, I think there's a lot of dynamics at play here, and we're very, very fortunate because we have such great guys here. But I think it's something that's definitely, you need to recognize. Yeah.
We've talked so much about young guys, so many young guys. We've talked a lot about performance on the field. Can you take the temperature of the leadership issue of this team? Is it where you want it to be? Do you need older guys to step up? And the challenge of when there's so many young guys, is there a leadership void?
Well, I think that when you actually get out there and play and do the things that you're expecting yourself to do, you feel more empowered to take more of a leadership role. I still think we do have some really good guys who maybe haven't had as much of an impact on the field as they would have liked, who have had great leadership. But I think that when you're on the field and you're playing games, if you put it on the field, then I think that you feel, again, a little bit stronger about taking that step forward in leadership. So it's evolving. Again, we do have some really good guys who have shown good leadership, but as we're settling into these roles, I think that's, kind of evolving over these past couple of weeks.
Another thing I would think would be a challenge is quarterback's the most important position. You've got freshmen and true freshmen here. In terms, again, the leadership issue, is it a challenge to get older guys to rally around somebody who's 18 years old? I mean, in your experience, how do you navigate that?
Well, I think that in the perfect order of things, your older guys are the ones who are the leaders, who are the ones who are playing, and sometimes when you have younger guys come in, that does change the dynamic a little bit. But that's football, and that's every team has its own different journey along the way, and And I think this year that we're experiencing some of that, like you're saying. Yeah.
Third row right, Tom Moore, Buckeye School.
Ryan, when you are making an evaluation on a fourth down, go for it, punt, kick, whatever, what factors into that decision for you? Game state, quality of opponent, all that kind of stuff. How much does the quality of the opponent change what you might do in that kind of situation?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into that, and certainly have studied all the analytics that go with that. Certainly when I was in the NFL and now in college, but there's so many things that come into play, like where you are in the game, where you are field position wise. Does it make sense to punt and just gain 15, 20 yards, or if you get a touchback, are the 3 points really worth it in that moment, or do you feel like it's a higher scoring game and you gotta get a touchdown? But I think the other part that's important is, do you have a good play? It's one thing to go for it. It's another thing to know you have a good play in that moment. It's 4th and 2 on, the plus 35-yard line. And, you feel really confident this play is going to work, or, man, I don't have much here. We better punt, and I think that all those things come into play for sure.
There are companies that do, professional analytics, like championship analytics, for example, produces like binders for schools. Do you guys have a source for that kind of stuff? Is that stuff you produce internally? Is that, how do you generate those decisions?
Yeah, we study that internally here for sure. And I think that, you look at those numbers and you look at the statistics, but there's so many different variables at play when you're talking about situations like that. I do think, when you're in the NFL, where everybody's pretty much equal and everybody has the same set of, situation, then that's one thing. But I think in college, there's just a lot of different dynamics. The conferences, the situations are just very, very different. And I think so much of it has to do with, your team, how you think the game is going and feel. But there's also some times where you got to look at the numbers on it to say, when is it worth punting? When is it worth going for it?
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Right. Ryan, we've seen Travion seems establish himself as the starter running back. What would be the ideal carries for him? Assuming a normal game and not one like this past Saturday where you get up big and can get some other guys in the game. What do you kind of want the balance to be with your running back?
Yeah, usually, right. Right. We want to be balanced for sure, and we want to make sure that run pass is pretty equal. But right in the 20 carry range is usually pretty good. But we do have a lot of depth there too, so we feel like we can play some depth and keep him fresh. He still is young, but somewhere in that area is usually pretty good.
We saw Master and Mayan. We didn't see Mayan 2 weeks ago. You mentioned he was missed practice. The balance between those two, is that a week-to-week thing who comes in certain situations, or are those guys kind of set in a certain structure?
I don't know if it's set. I think that Master ran harder last week. I thought he did some really good things, and he continues to build on that. This is a guy who could have got frustrated, along the way, but has just kept working. And I've been very, very impressed with that. And he's playing good football right now, and he deserves to run. And Mayan, is, practicing a little bit better now, and he's working through some things, but, we'll continue to work on those guys. But you can see both of them have the ability to do it. And it'll be a little bit week to week, but I think that Master has asserted himself here the last couple of weeks.
Just real quick, we saw Evan late in the game scored the touchdown. Getting him out on the field, I don't know what he figures to be this year. Maybe that, though, could be important for his future.
Yeah, no, I think, Evan has a lot of talent. I think that, this year is going to be very, very important for him to grow and build. But one thing that, I think Evan's done a really good job of, he's not trying to compare himself to anybody else. And I think sometimes in this world with, people who surround them with family, with people's friends, with social media, it's easy to do that. Say, well, why aren't you doing this? Or, compare yourself to somebody else. And that's not really a recipe for success. The recipe for success is focusing on yourself and just getting better and having a long-term approach. And I think Evan's done a very, very good job of that. And I think you're going to see a really good player here in the future.
Brian, you mentioned players finding their roles. Are you seeing that in the secondary as well as maybe Lathan Ransom moves back and then Cam Martinez moves in? Are you seeing that? Are you happy with what you're seeing?
Yeah, we'll see. We have a bigger challenge this week, but I think you're starting to see guys make plays. I think you're seeing, Denzel kind of, settle into a role here. You're seeing Ronnie Hickman settle into a role. We have moved Lathan around a little bit, so he's working through that. Cam's made some plays, but yeah, we're kind of looking to really solidify those roles. But it is still good to have some depth there and roll some guys, but you can see certainly there's not as much rolling as there was the first couple of weeks.
Do you want to provide any update on Harry Miller?
Yep. So Harry, he's been dealing with some health issues, and he's going to, come back this week and be part of the team, which we're all excited about, and get back to work.
Ryan, you probably went to bed about 2:30 on Sunday morning. Probably woke up about 4. I'm thinking.
Didn't sleep, but that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. What was the thought? What were the thoughts that were keeping you up? Was it dealing with the Kevon Pope situation? Was it, hey, I've got a quarterback deal. Here's my number one quarterback, going to be ready this week. Hey, Rutgers looks a lot better than it did 3 years ago. The Big Ten East looks a lot better than it did 2 months ago. Just kind of go through that litany and how you compartmentalize and think on different things at different times.
Yeah. That's why, it's hard to sleep, because your mind races and all those things go through your mind. But specifically, to share my thoughts after the game, I was very, very excited about just the energy after the first drive. I just thought we played harder. I thought we had energy on the sideline. I thought the guys played and had fun across the board. I just thought you just felt that on the sideline. And then certainly, the incident that happened, it bothered me. So I had a hard time sleeping that night. But looking back on the team, there were just so many good things there. So it was like kind of this back and forth. And then obviously, you're getting back into the conference and all that comes with this week.
And Juwan Jones seems to be playing not just competently and confidently, but almost with a joy out there. Do you see that in him too when you watch video? And just, are you still a little bit surprised the way this guy has come along, I guess?
Well, I think he's played well. He certainly has his best football ahead of him, and he still has a lot of work to do. But the energy that he's bringing, seeing him run down the field and all those type of things, it's contagious. He likes playing the game, and then that's what I'm talking about. Those type of steps that we're taking right now are huge, and now he's got to continue to build on that. Again, bigger challenge this week. But when he's on and he's doing, things the right way and using really good discipline, and he's preparing at a high level, which I thought he had a really good week of preparation last week, much better than a week before. All of a sudden he's starting to play better. He's going to have to do it again this week. Bigger challenge.
Over here, far right, second row, Clay Hall, WSYX.
Outside these walls, you're probably here, but did you see Justin Fields getting sacked 9 times, and what did it prompt in you?
Yeah, no, I didn't see it. All I did was read and hear about it, and so I'm not sure exactly, how that shook. Not a great start, but there's a lot of young quarterbacks that haven't had great starts. And you think about Peyton Manning's rookie season and everything he went through there, and the hardest thing in that league is just being able to pull yourself off the canvas and continue to work through. He and I talked about that after the Northwestern game, that when you go to the NFL, you're going to have several days just like this, just days you wake up and you got to go figure it out again. And I think what survives in that league is the resilience of young quarterbacks to continue to identify what went wrong and get better and fix it. And so one thing I know about him is he's competitively tough, and he'll fix the problems and he'll be back.
Text him at all, or
I haven't had a chance to talk to him. No.
Back right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, with your offensive line, you guys have had Thayer out now for a little bit. It seems like you guys are starting to develop some chemistry there. How are you going to balance when he's ready to come back with, keeping that chemistry, but also making sure that your best 5 are on the field?
Yeah, the good news is we've built some depth there, so we have the ability to roll some guys, but we'll take into consideration that chemistry, like you're saying. And, it kind of works itself out more times than not, where, someone gets banged up or whatever, and you have to get another guy in there. And, the offensive line is not someone that, typically that you roll positions and roll guys in and out. But, we'll talk to the O-line this week and have Stud look at it and see if that's appropriate this week. And if it is, we'll do it.
At linebacker, when you have a couple guys that are veterans leading the team, but you have these young guys emerging, do you start to see a little bit of, a culture shift in the room? And I'm not saying it's like addition by subtraction, but is it almost like a little healthy to see that culture shift to the guys who are starting to produce?
I think every year is a new dynamic, and we lost a lot of strong leadership in that room. And so this year it's different. And, anytime you lose 4 players from one position group like that who have such a strong presence and so much production, it's going to be bumpy. And I think they're starting to forge that, new identity a little bit, but it has been a work in progress this year for sure.
Over here to the far right, Don Barry, WPSD, or WPNS, TV.
Thank you, Jerry.
That's Paducah, Kentucky,
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ryan, you look at Rutgers, how big of a challenge, and how about the Greg Schiano factor?
Yeah, I think he's done a very, very good job, in these past 2 years of getting his team ready, and does a good job coaching in all three phases. It is a challenge going on the road, and I think you see what he did last year. Certainly, playing some really good football, and then last week, took up north all the way to the fourth quarter. Played excellent defense in the fourth quarter. Has the guys believing and playing hard. So, it's going to be a Big Ten conference, road game that we got to do a really good job and, get on the road and handle the environment. It'll be a good environment there. He'll have them rocking. And need a great week of preparation.
The youth movement on this team is well documented. With that said, do you feel like your defense is turned the corner, or do you really like what you're seeing now?
I think we've made some strides, and I think this week will be another big test for us. But I think you just overall see us changing some things up, playing with great aggression. But again, we'll know that more here in a couple of weeks and figure out where we're at. We got a big challenge this week, and as it continues to grow, I don't think that the answer's here yet. We gotta see where we're at in this thing. It's week to week and be able to bring it week to week. It's not, just you do a good job 1 week and then move on. And again, it's going to be a whole different game this week, whole different challenge.
Ryan, I just want to ask about Paris Johnson's like big time guy, big time recruit, moved inside. I feel like we haven't talked about him much. How's he? Maybe just because he's doing his job every week. I don't know. How's he played so far?
I think anytime when you don't notice a guard, then he's doing a heck of a job. I think his approach has been excellent. He's learning the position. It's not easy in there. And I think that's something that probably got glossed over was, Luke Wypler, Paris Johnson, DeJuan Jones, Nick gets moved to left, Thayer goes inside. It's 5 guys doing something new for the first time. And while they've practiced together against our defense, there's a style there, there's a 4-down scheme, kind of the same thing over and over again. Now you see different patterns, different styles, different spacings, and then coming over to the sideline and making adjustments. And then certainly not having stud here for those couple of weeks. That was a bumpy time for those guys, and I give them a lot of credit. They've stuck together. I think the offensive line room, their culture, their energy, their dedication, their buy-in is off the charts, and I give Stud a lot of credit for that, for maintaining that during this time. But Paris is one of those guys that's a major contributor to that.
You've mentioned a couple times this season, as we see maybe guys playing time change from week to week, you say, well, they practice better,
right,
and that affected it. We know that's how it always is, right? The better you practice, the more opportunities you get. But are you tying that together any more this year than in past years? It feels like you guys aren't afraid to say, hey, well, just because this guy got 40 snaps last week, maybe he'll get 5 this week because somebody else had a better week of practice. How's that working out?
Well, I think it's working out, and I think we're getting better. But I also think, to your point, there were so many guys with such little experience and such few snaps that it's like, you're trying to figure out what is the best moving forward, and you want to give guys opportunities to play, but at the end of the day, they have to perform. And so what do you go on? You go on their performance in a game, and then you try to project the best you can based on what you see in practice. And when you have so many guys who have such little experience, there's some projecting that goes on there, and all you can do is go on what you see.
I think we could ask you 50 questions about 4th down decision making because it can be so fascinating. Sometimes in a world where it feels like you need 7s to win games these days, 3s aren't going to win you many games anymore. Can a punt in the right situation be more aggressive than a long field goal? If you think we're going to punt them down, pin them inside the 5, stop them, get it back, and try for another 7.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the whole idea of the plan to win and playing the field position game is exactly what you just said. But you have to execute it, and then you actually have to stop them, and then you have to get the ball back. Those are the things you consider when you're making those decisions. Yeah.
Coach, I want to know from a position group perspective, You've got 4 games under your belt now, where you were going into week 1, where you are after week 4. Which group has made the most progress?
I have to think about that for a sec. Since week 1, I'd probably say the defensive backs and probably the offensive line. I'd say. I guess you could say the running backs because of the way Trey's run. But there's been progress across the board. But those probably stick out.
I think we're going to have a chance to talk to Haskell Garrett. There's probably nobody on your team that's been through, as much as he's been through in the last 2 years, at least not that we know of. He seems to have this lightness about him. He's holding hands with his nephews coming off the field. He's playing, having fun. Had a huge game last week. What's been the most enjoyable thing that you've been able to witness watching him grow and everything he's gone through?
Well, I just think, again, we all know it's well documented what happened to him, and then him being able to respond the way he did. I think that was kind of a crossroads for him, and that was huge for him as a person. The football player is the football player, but I think that he's really changed as a person, just in a lot of ways, and because of that, he's going to be a great dad. He's going to be a really good husband, and he's going to be successful whatever he does after football. Hopefully, that's after a long career in the NFL. But that's probably what I'm most proud of.
Ryan, you probably can't answer this with any certainty until you go through practice. But what's your level of confidence that CJ's shoulder will be good enough for him to start? And can you give any details on what the shoulder issue is?
Yeah, I really can't do that. I'm optimistic that coming off of Sunday's practice and the feedback that I've got from the trainers and our medical staff and from CJ that we're ready to move forward this week.
Okay. How did Kyle play? Now that you've watched it in detail.
He was inconsistent, with some of his reads. I thought that early on he was a little nervous. He did make some nice throws when he saw it, and I thought there were some really good plays in there. But there was also some that he kind of got away with, and we just got to do a great job of recognizing what the pre-snap movement keys are, the post-snap movement keys are, and just trust our eyes. But when you're starting for the first time, there's a lot going on, and I think the next time he's in that moment, he'll be a little more settled.
I don't want to belabor what happened with Kayvon, but what exactly happened? I didn't actually see it, but I guess he came on the field and was waved off. Can you explain what happened?
Yeah, I'd rather not get into all that right now. I kind of just want to move forward.
Ryan, were you at all open to the idea that Kyle could have played so well that he just sort of took the job and ran with it moving forward? And how does the fact that, he wasn't quite that, also wasn't terrible, kind of right down the middle, right. How does that, complicate your evaluation and decision at that position moving forward?
Not right now. We'll continue to build and grow, and it was good to get snaps under his belt. And same thing with Jack. I think it was good for both of those guys as we move forward and just see what comes this next couple of weeks. But Kyle, for the most part, and so same thing with Jack, they pretty much played the way that they practiced. And so, but I think now it gives them a little bit more of a reference point moving forward of, okay, this is maybe how it looks in practice, but this is the reality in the game.
You mentioned a couple of times here, there's first and second year guys who are playing in place of probably third, fourth, and fifth year guys who maybe anticipated a different role for them. I know that can be complicated to manage at times. So it's just like, how has that impacted the vibe of the team at all, if in any way?
Well, I think it's what we were talking about before is just, you kind of count on maybe some of the older guys who are playing to be the strong leaders, the guys that you're counting on in the field to be the voice. And, when some of those guys are still trying to get those reps under their belt and find their role and find their identity, then, it makes for, sometimes a dynamic that, isn't ideal. But the idea is that as we move forward and we start to fill those roles, we have some guys who have really good leadership skills. And I think they're going to really embrace those. And you're starting to see that already. I thought last week some guys stepped up and spoke in front of the team, 3 different guys in 3 different moments, and the message was right on point. And so we're getting there, but it is a work in progress for sure. Yeah, it was right after the game. It was Garrett Wilson in the locker room. It was Xavier Johnson in front of the team before one of the practices, and it was Jerron Cage after a Thursday practice, and the messages were great. Garrett's message was that, what is our standard? We have to create the standard here. It's not about just winning and losing, and that was last week. And then Xavier Johnson talked about that every rep matters. We can't let reps get away from us, which is something that we learned from Pete Warner the year before. And then Jerron Cage was just talking about how we hadn't quite played a whole game 9 units strong, and that we weren't quite there yet. And let's bring this thing together. So when you start to hear those things from your players and from your teammates, then you're starting to get there. And I think that's all part of this process and this building process as we go into, I guess, the middle part of the season.
Hey, Ryan, everybody kind of knew that when Coach Gianna went back to Rutgers, they would have a chance to turn this around. Going into that first half, it could have been 24-3 and then name your score. I'm sure most people thought that. What is happening? Because as coaches, you see the film and you can see body language, just how they go. I'm not talking scheme, just about how they carry themselves. What is happening there?
I mean, I'm not there, so I don't know, but I know that they've been very competitive and they've played with great effort, and they're executing what they've been asked to execute, and with execution fuels emotion, and it sounds and seems like they're buying into what Greg's preaching to them.
Regarding the offensive line, we were at practice, and all of a sudden we saw these bodies at different positions. When did that start? I mean, it's just a lot of people would call it like weird science, that you would take something that's been successful and then taking that chance to have people accept it and buy into it and actually have it work.
You talk about having so many guys in?
Changing your offensive line the way you did.
Oh, well, the idea is that you try to find, the best 5. And, that means we had to move some pieces around. And, I think that, we have kind of a best 6 right now, with Matt is proven that he can play with those guys, and that's been great. But that's again, when you talk about the culture of that room, Thayer Munford is one of the more unselfish players I've ever been around. That's why he's our Block O recipient. That's why he's a captain. He went and said, no, what's better for the team is that I move to guard. Now, it certainly is going to pay huge dividends for him down the road, because I think a lot of clubs will be able to see him play multiple positions. He's already proven himself at tackle. Now he's proven he can play guard. But, the easy thing for him to say, well, I'm not moving. But he didn't do that. He put the Buckeyes first. He put the team first. And that goes to speak on the culture of that room and how impressed I've been with the unselfishness of that entire room. And to your point, that allowed us to put the best 5 on the field.
Ryan, I think you're up to 9 transfers now in the 2018 class. You've got a couple other guys in that class who are dealing with long-term injuries. Is there a reason behind that attrition that you can see, and how do you go about covering the loss of what would have been a lot of your senior class?
Yeah, I think when you look around the country, it's similar, if not, worse at other places than here. I think for the most part, we've done a really good job in that area. But as we're getting into the season, we're seeing some roles fall into place. That's where you're seeing some of that. And I've never been one to run guys off the team. I guess there's situations I probably could have done that in the spring or the preseason, but that's not the way we do things here. We care about our guys, and so I think again it's more a product of the situation in college football right now, where there's one-time transfer, there's name, image, likeness. They can play for the first 4 games, then decide to walk out with really no penalty, and they get the redshirt year back. I think those are all the dynamics at play, and I think when you look at our guys, we're better than most, and I think that speaks to our culture.
I think also 7 scholarship linebackers. One of them is hurt, and Mitchell. One of them is a true freshman. One of them got here in July. Have you looked at all into moving anybody into that room, like Cade Stover, like in high school? Is that something you've looked at?
I mean, I think we're okay right now. We also have Kate Kuchersky and Ryan Batch, who both play special teams for us and do a good job. And so, I think we're okay right now, but if something disastrous were to happen, we'd have to look into that. But that's where, Steele made the move over there and was very impressed with how he's done that. We added EA to there. So again, as of right now, I think we're okay. But yeah, I mean, if we were to take a bunch of hits there, we'd have to come up with a plan.
More guys on the availability report.
Munford, you said, was not a long-term thing. He's missed a couple games now. Are you hoping to be closer to all hands on deck for Big Ten play, because you're missing 3 veterans there with Vincent, Jean-Baptiste, and Tyreek Smith on your defensive front? I know you don't want to talk about specifics,
Sure.
but in general, are you going to be closer to full go for this week?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping to get some of those guys back for sure. But, some of them are, linger a little bit. There's not much you can do about that. We want to make sure the guys are safe. But at the end of the day, that's not my decision to make. That's the medical staff's. But, yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic that we'll get those guys back for this game.
And just like Buka, the play he made, taking 20-yard pass and turning it into 85, is this a guy that needs more touches, I guess? And I know that's hard because you've got so many other guys, but is this a guy that's earned maybe some more opportunities, I guess?
I can't say enough about how impressed I've been with his approach every day. He works really, really hard. He's tough. He plays special teams. He takes his job very serious. He's got a chance to be an excellent leader. I think the future is extremely bright for Emeka, and I couldn't be happier with what he's done so far and his approach, his maturity level. And so, that's a tough room. It's right now. It's the breakthrough, but you don't hear a word from him. And this is a guy who's highly recruited, and he's only going to get better. And the more opportunities we can give him, we will when appropriate. But again, the future is extremely bright for him, especially as he just keeps working hard and putting days together on top of days with no expectations. And you can see what he's capable of.
Coach, kind of going off of what he just said, Chris Olave with just 2 catches in the last 2 games. Do you have to make a more concerted effort to get him the ball, or is it just sometimes a Garrett game and sometimes a...
Yeah, it kind of is. And when you only play a half of football, it gets harder. And there's just certain times where, you design plays for certain guys that comes up. But a lot of times when you design a play and you're one of the top receivers in the country, they're going to put 2 guys on them or back them way up and run them out of there, and the ball's going to come somewhere else, and certainly we want to get those guys as many touches as we possibly can. But there's just games where that doesn't happen, and it's a tribute to obviously his talent level, and guys know where he is at all times, whether it's seeing where he is and doubling him, or just really, backing up so that they can't, take a shot downfield as they know he's very, very good at that. But again, I can't say enough about his approach too. And, he hasn't let any of that stuff bother him. He's been a good leader in this time, and he's really helped that wide receiver unit get stronger. So he's got a lot of catches ahead of him.
Coach, thank you very much. All right, guys. Thanks.
Hey, Brian, is the beard here to stay?
Yeah.
Good, thanks. Hey, you guys cut hair by chance? Time, few and far between.
Please, yep. All righty, we'll open it up to front row, or second row middle. Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
How's it going?
Can you describe the dynamics of how play calling is going on the defensive side. Obviously, you're doing that now. How does that work? And you kind of caught off guard when Ryan asked you to do it.
Sort of a group effort, particularly game day. I mean, just sorting through adjustments and we're all in the meetings together throughout the week and kind of put a call sheet together and what we like in certain situations. So in a lot of ways, the game calls itself. And then it's, again, a group effort during the game on the sideline and on the headsets to get things adjusted and see what calls we like. So really been a group effort.
And what are your biggest concerns still?
I think we've seen improvement in some areas, but we'll really be tested getting into league play. Just trying to play fast and be consistent. Just looking for improvement in our execution of our schemes.
Fourth row left, calling game rivals.
How have you seen your secondary especially with all the young guys that you guys have? How have you seen kind of them improve, kind of rally around this kind of youth movement that you've seen guys like Denzel Burke, Cam Martinez? Like, how have you seen kind of that room change based on kind of the youth movement that you guys have?
Yeah, if you're in that room every day, you're not surprised. Our veteran players are extremely talented, and so are our young players. And our young players have worked extremely hard for months now. Coming off of last season, some of the guys, particularly the guys you mentioned, really had great growth through the spring and continued it throughout the summer. So it's been fun to watch all that hard work come to fruition for them.
How much of an impact, especially this past week, see the emergence of a little bit more of a pass rush? And I'm curious about how the secondary kind of responded to the ability for a defensive line to get to the quarterback, the linebackers to get to the quarterback. How did they see kind of more opportunities come their way because of that amount of pressure, or how did that change the secondary?
Yeah, that's kind of what we preach in the defensive unit meetings is you can't play defense in a vacuum. There's no LeBron of defensive football. It truly takes all 11 guys. It's not just one person that can kind of overtake the game. So it's there are times when our secondary makes a play as a result of a ball that was forced by a quarterback due to pressure, and there are times when our defensive line gets home, our pass rush gets home because the secondary has made the quarterback hold the ball for an extra count. So just trying to work together and understanding that if we have success on defense, that whoever got credit for making the play, there were likely 10 other guys that made major contributions to that success.
Yeah, how challenging is it as a coach to be patient with freshmen, both in performance on the field, but also maturity and leadership? And how does that dynamic work when you also have some seniors and upperclassmen? How do they work together?
Yeah. It's challenging. I think, you mentioned it's as much off the field as it is on the field. And, we know that if your habits aren't great off the field, then that will rear its head in the games on the field. So constant effort to be managing those habits, and some are further along than others. And it definitely helps to have some veteran guys in the room that have seen it all before and kind of been through it and made some of the mistakes that the younger guys are making, so they can help give them some guidance. So, but a challenge.
When do you see guys stop being squirrely as freshmen?
Not as soon as you like. I can tell you that. No. Hard to put a time on it. Different for every guy, but I think sometimes it depends on how soon they realistically see themselves having a chance to be a major contributor, and sometimes that maybe makes you grow up a little faster.
Second row right, Tim May, Letterman row.
As you watch Denzel Burke after last week compared to going into the first week, where have you just seen big progress in him? Obviously, he was good enough to start in the opener, but what have you seen that you've really liked about his progress?
Yeah, Denzel's got a rare skill set, and he's another guy, and he works really hard at it. And those of us that were able to watch him in the spring are not surprised by the success that he's had. We saw all that ability, and you see the product on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, and we see the process Tuesday for 30 to 45 minutes after the rest of the field is, the rest of the guys have gone in the locker room. So, there's no substitution for in-game experience and seeing the speed of the game and how it moves and playing in the shoe and playing on the road and those types of things. So I think just, there's a degree of execution that comes with seeing it, over and over again and having some experience. So been very pleased with Denzel.
Yeah, and Matt, when Coach Day came to you guys after the second game and said, I got to make some changes here, was that a big gulp moment for you too? I mean, and just how would you describe how y'all as a group, a defensive coaching group, handled that transition?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was a humbling time and still is for all of us. Very high expectations here at Ohio State and rightfully so. It was a change and it continues to be a change for all of us. And this is something that we are arm in arm in as a defensive staff and as a coaching staff. And, at the end of the day, we are in a relentless pursuit of how to get it right and how to improve. And really, that's all we are focused on.
Did you come into that armed with ideas of some things that you even thought needed to have a shakeup or a change?
I think every coach has things that they see maybe slightly differently, and just sometimes it can be just a little thing, or as much as anything, it's a comfort level. There are only so many hours in a day, and you count it whether it's little things like how you script practice or whatever it may be. Just not that it needed to be changed in some areas, but sometimes it's just I'm a little more comfortable doing it this way, and there's those types of things. So there's a couple things that maybe have changed in the day to day, but again, we're sort of all working in chorus on how to get it right.
Second row left, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
Matt, what happened with Seven Banks this season, and why has he not been very involved, and what more do you guys need to see from him to get him to where I assume you all thought he would be this season?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's easy to overlook the fact that Seven, missed all of the spring with a knee setback and something that he had battled for quite a long time and battled that through the summer and then had a setback when he got to camp. So, I think if I don't get the luxury of watching a ton of NFL, but I see the ticker just when I walk by the TV, and I always see, so-and-so out 4 to 6 weeks with this and that or the other. And, there's a timetable to get back. I think when you're injured, no matter how much experience you have, there's a timetable to get back to where you were, particularly when over the course of, months, you've missed a significant amount of football. And to just say that you're going to jump right back in when you really are kind of battling your way back through an injury, I don't think that's fair to expect anybody to just jump right back in and be right at their best right away. But we've seen Seven improve every week as he's got healthier and healthier and healthier, and his attitude's been great, and he has played well here in this last game.
For Ronnie Hickman, why do you think he's been able to have the impact he has? And when you guys were looking for what was going to happen in Bullet, why was he a guy that made so much sense there?
Well, he's had an impact because he's a great football player, and he works extremely hard at it. But, again, I think some of his success is as a result of a group of 10 other players that are buying in and executing their job. His interception the other night comes as a result of a quarterback that's been flushed out of the pocket by a defensive pass rush. And but Ronnie's a fantastic football player. And again, if you'd seen what he had done in the spring and all through camp, then you're not surprised by how well he's played thus far.
Right next door, Doug Lamerise, Cleveland.com.
Continuing with Ronnie, seems the last couple games he's been deep a little more often from that bullet position. Obviously, you guys adjust to what an offense is doing, right? If they have four wides or if they have two tight ends on the field or whatever. But
sure.
What is it in Ronnie's skill set that the times when he's been in the box in that bullet role, he can do that? Now he's back deep more. How much have his responsibilities changed sort of if you guys have shifted some things with the defense the last couple of
Well, I
years?
think, you hit on it. A lot of what we do is dependent upon what the offense does. And we got in that Tulsa game and it became a throw fest, so we played some different coverages and, we had some success early on in the Akron game and our offense was rolling. So again, quickly became a pass tilted game in Saturday night as well. So, when it's a pass tilted down, we can be a little bit more flexible with some of our coverages, but Ronnie's a versatile player, and that's kind of why we had him targeted for that bullet roll where, one snap he can be down around the box playing a run, and the next snap he can be in the deep part of the field.
And this comes up, I'm sure, with lots of players. What a player does best, where he would best fit on the defense versus what the team might need from him, right? Sometimes that matches up. Maybe sometimes it's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering specifically, Lathan Ransom starts the year at cover safety. Josh is at deep safety. Josh gets hurt. Cam Martinez gets a chance and shows he looks pretty good. Now last week, Lathan is back at deep safety.
Mm-hmm.
Just that kind of thing as you're trying to fit the skills of players to what you need. What's that decision-making process like? And specifically, what's it been like with where Lathan best helps this defense?
Yeah. You've got to be fluid and it's a constant effort to get the best players on the field and be aware of your overall depth. And, we kind of had a little bit of a log jam there at cover safety with three really good players. And then, when we lost Josh, felt like maybe that, needed to provide some depth at that position. And again, if you're just ranking and looking at overall, okay, how do we get our best guys on the field? We felt like, that gave us a chance to move some guys around and try to prevent one guy having to play, 90 snaps in a game. I mean, Bryson Shaw has played outstanding this year, but don't think anybody can go, 90 plays a game for a whole season, as well as he's played. So it just felt like with three guys playing well and practicing well at cover safety and just getting thinned out at free safety, that move made sense.
Second row middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Hi, Matt. A lot of coaches who call plays swear that they want to be, swear by being in the press box and say they see the field so much better. Other guys prefer being on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you like being on the field?
I just think, one, you get a little bit more of a feel for the game, particularly tempo. Sometimes you kind of get lost in the box of, you're kind of up there and it's, it's heated or it's air conditioned and you kind of just, watching but when you're down on the field, you feel the urgency of the situation. And then, the probably the biggest thing for me, is on the field, you can really be hands-on with how you adjust the game from series to series where, in the box, you can be effective in providing information, but it's hard to, you're not articulating those adjustments to the players. And we know how important that is. And fortunately, even though we've changed, moved some things around with our game day operation, our information from the press box has been extraordinary. We've really seen everything that we needed to see and been able to adjust it pretty well.
Typically, I would think that'd be the head coach's call, but in 2019, Coach Day had no problem with Jeff Hafley calling the plays from the box. So I assume that's your call, right? That if you wanted to be in the box, you would be, but you prefer being on the field. Is that accurate?
Just, kind of a group decision and just looking at, okay, what makes sense? Who can do this? Who can do that? The NCAA will only allow so many people to be on headsets and those types of things. So it was a big conversation and we just felt like that was, got the right pieces in the right places for us.
Fourth row left, Bill Landis, The Athletic.
Matt, with the way you guys have mixed coverages the last couple of weeks and what Doug was asking about aligning too high a little more maybe than you had previously, when you guys assessed sort of what needed to be tweaked or changed, how important was it to make sure that pre-snap picture, I guess, for the opposing quarterback wasn't so static with that post safety always in the middle of the field?
Yeah, I think it's disguise is such a big part of the game, and being able to affect the decision makers on offense, whether it's the offensive coordinator or the quarterback, being able to affect those guys with pre-snap and pre-snap disguises and some different options. In today's football, it's so important. We and again, some of that was just based on what we were getting the last 2 weeks from those opponents. Allowed us to be, maybe more multiple in some of those areas. But it'll be a constant assessment of what we're playing well, what's the right mix to present some different pictures, and constant awareness of what we need to defend and how to make a team left-handed first.
The way you guys play zone, and some of the guys last week were talking about, it just kind of takes reps to get comfortable with that, particularly the underneath guys. Just how have you seen them come along, and do you feel like they're getting better in terms of spacing and understanding concepts?
Yeah. Again, it's a younger group, so with every game rep, every day we see improvement. No substitute for in-game experience, and you start to learn how the trends of how offenses are planning to attack you, and you start to recognize some similarities and you can anticipate. But they're coming along well. Mm-hmm.
Second row right, Austin Ward, Letterman row.
Matt, am I wrong? Did you also have the same situation at Maryland the last year where you weren't identified as the coordinator but were calling plays?
A similar scenario, yeah.
So it's unorthodox. At least, that's not the way most teams do it, but you've been part of it twice. You just have like a magic voice or something? Do you enunciate more clearly? Like, how are you getting these roles?
I have a great answer for you, brother. Yeah. Whether the previous opportunity or this one, however they come about, you just are in constant pursuit of how to get it right. So, however they shake out to you, you have to find every resource you can. And our defensive staff has been awesome. Some things have shaken out and been a little different. But I give everybody in that room credit, that we've rallied together and in heavy pursuit of getting better every week and playing great defense.
This might be easier then to get Court Williams maybe back involved and what he might give you if he could stay on this track to get healthier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Court's a stud, great player, one of the most impressive young men that I've ever been around. Playing better and better. He's another guy that I don't think you can fully appreciate. Probably goes without saying, but you get good at football by playing football, and just Court has missed so much time due to injury. But now that he's kind of back in the swing of things and had a chance to get his feet wet in a game last week and played some really good snaps and has practiced really well and has always been really dialed in. So I would look for Court Williams' stock to continue to rise.
Got time for just a few more. Over here, far right, Tony Gertman, Buckeye School.
Matt, is the secondary now, do you think it's settled in terms of players in their roles with Cam Martinez stepping up and Lathan Ransom moving back? Do you feel like it's set?
Again, it will always be fluid based on who we have available for the game and what personnel groupings we're defending and things like that. And, keeping in mind that practice is a huge part of it. And the guys that go practice the best and the most consistent will get opportunities. And then those that play well in the game will get opportunities. But I think we're in a pretty good place at the moment.
I know you weren't surprised by Denzel Burke because you saw him in the spring, but at some point you had to be.
Well, we were surprised in the spring. Yeah. No, he's unbelievable. His patience and, he's got somewhere he stole a ton of reps, but he's got a very bright future. Yeah. Yep.
Second row right, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Matt, back at Maryland for you in 2018, were there things you were able to learn then
calling defense that's able to help you now?
Yeah, I think it's like anything else. It's like, I just said, best way to get better at playing football is to play football. I think the best way to improve calling defense is to call defense, and somebody asked the question earlier about were there things that you wanted to do differently or things that you like? And, some of that stuff is hard to really say until you get in, until you get out there calling it and you're like, boy, I really wish I had that, coverage or that pressure right now. And then get back in there on Sunday and it's like, okay, maybe let's get that one going a little bit. So, hopefully we'll continue to see improvement as we go, but, learn some valuable lessons that year in 2018 and, learning with every play right now.
Second row left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Kind of a follow up on the Lathan moving back to free safety, kind of chicken and egg situation. What came first? Did Cam Martinez start playing well enough for you guys to feel comfortable to move Lathan, or was it more just because Josh Proctor got hurt and you feel like you needed to, change some things up back there?
A little of both. We rep a lot of guys a lot of places. That's kind of the nature of how spring works. Hey, so-and-so's down today with a hamstring. It's like, okay, well, we got to move this guy here and that guy there. You can't have three guys at one position and one guy at one position. It just doesn't. You can't practice that way. You can't, not somebody gets dinged in the game. Now you got nobody there. So you're constantly moving guys around. We've seen Lathan at free safety, many practices, and we've seen Cam Martinez practice and scrimmage very well, and obviously played very well in the Tulsa game, and then played well Saturday night. So it's just a constant evaluation of your personnel and what you need to defend and how to get the right guys in the right spots.
Season 7, Cam missed some time. Name anybody else, which meant a lot of these young guys got extra reps that maybe they wouldn't have gotten. Are you seeing that kind of pay off right now with maybe some of these older guys struggling while some of these younger guys are maybe kind of progressing every week?
Definitely the younger guys, because they're very talented and we're just, again, they'll get better with every rep. It's hard for me to say, well, the older guys are struggling. I just, if you see what these guys were dealing with and the injuries that they're, been battling and the things that they've had to overcome and the amount of time that they've lost, guys in the major leagues, they get an injury and they go down to the minors to get right. That's just kind of how the body works. You can't just snap your fingers and, touch your toes and you're back to 100%. You gotta work your way back, and that's how it goes. So I don't know that the older guys were struggling so much as they just, they've had to overcome a ton of adversity and have gotten better and grinded and pushed through and been tough. And now they're getting back to, where we know they can be.
Far left, Brendan Gulick, BuckeyesNow and Sports Illustrated.
Hi, Matt. I want to build off a question maybe was asked earlier. You always hear coaches tell players, got to be ready when your number's called, right? And as a coaching staff, you guys had a plan coming into the year that obviously changed. I'm sure when we last talked to you in camp, you weren't expecting to be calling plays early in the season. How do you stay ready to fill into an opportunity that maybe you didn't foresee a couple games into the year?
Yeah. I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of great football coaches, and there are a ton of great football coaches in our defensive staff room right now. And I've said it before. I think one of my better qualities, I'm a pretty low ego guy. So when someone has a good idea, I say, hey, that's a good idea. Why don't we do that? Someone has a great call in a critical situation in the game. I'm like, yeah, all right, let's call that. That's a heck of an idea. Been very fortunate over the last decade or so to be around some very, very intelligent and skilled football coaches. And I stole everything that I could steal from them, and I'm still around a whole bunch of really good football coaches. And when they have great ideas, I say, yeah, let's do that. So
I know you guys are all pulling the rope in the same direction, but how much do you feel that this is an evaluation of you and your ability as a coordinator moving forward here?
I don't really feel that way. I totally appreciate the question. It's such a group deal. I love your analogy. We're all pulling the same direction, and I think it's, we're all in this thing together. And I'm going to help in every way that I can. But at the end of the day, we will succeed because we do it together. So.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Matt, going back to 7, obviously the injury puts him in a tough spot, but he comes back. There are guys that have jumped ahead of him, it seems, on the depth chart. He gets to play this past week, but how do you make sure you don't lose an older guy like that when a situation comes up where maybe all of a sudden he's back from injury, but he's not playing as much as you would want to?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen guys that can get lost in the shuffle and then things don't go their way. How do you keep him engaged and ready to go so when you have a chance to play like he did on Saturday, he's good to step out there and be the player?
Well, 7's a pro. I'll tell you that. I mean, even when he was hurt and like out, camp, he couldn't, when he got dinged, he couldn't do anything. And he was locked in, notepad out every meeting, coaching other. I mean, he's a stud. He's a stud. So I haven't had to say a whole lot. He knows what a great player he is. We know what a great player he is. And, again, I've been extremely impressed with how he's grinded through it. And despite the fact that he's, hasn't been all the way healthy, he's continued to just fight and fight and fight, and been a great leader and has, again, played better and better every single day. So.
Coach, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
You guys were expecting Haskell and Luke Wypler in here as well. You betcha. Appreciate you taking the time to meet with our guys. We're going to jump right into questions. We'll open it up. Back row right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman row.
Luke, you probably weren't expecting at the very beginning of the season to have now 4 starts under your belt. How have you settled in and kind of taken a lead as that, I guess, leader of the offensive line?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I wasn't honestly expecting it going to the beginning of the season, but things happen, and like I always say, you have to be ready, next man up mentality, and always stay ready, watch film, and be prepared. And I think going forward now, 4 games in, I think I kind of finally settled into what my role is as a center and how I got to lead the offensive line every week. So I think just now 4 games in, I've learned a lot. There's a lot of things maybe I wasn't doing early on that now I'm doing. So I think like anything, it's just learning lessons.
A couple of games into it, you seem to be settling in with Thayer to your left and Paris to your right. Now you've had Matt come in and be to your left. Does anything change when you got new guys around you, or do you just kind of stay the same no matter who's with you on that open?
Yeah, I think like you said, you got to kind of just stay the same. I mean, nothing changes. I think Matt's a great player. He stepped up and, like I would say, next man up, and he was ready. He was prepared, and he played great. Latter half of last game and this most recent game. So I think like anything, I don't think anything changes for me. I know I got 2 guys next to me that are ready to play and know what they're doing.
Third row middle, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Hey, Luke, how special is this week's game for you to have the opportunity to go back and play in your home state?
Yeah, I think this game's really special. I think I have about 200 family members going to be there and friends. So I grew up about 15 minutes from the stadium. So a lot of my friends from back home are going to be there. So it's going to be really funny just to be in front of them, play at a stadium that I grew up going to. So I'm very, very excited.
You guys have a pretty solid core of guys from that, New Jersey, New York area. Obviously, Matt next to you on the line, Cody Simon, Javante, Kyle's from there. I mean, just what do you think, it is about you guys maybe coming from that area that's kind of helped mold you guys to be able to make an impact on this team?
I think a lot. I think coming from that area, kind of from Jersey, like everyone kind of knows, like the Jersey, the kind of rugged, tough guys. And I think that mold, we kind of just try to bring it here and bring it to our locker room here and try to pass along with some of our teammates and kind of how like we like to do things. Like we like to go out for pizza, bagels. Like a lot of people don't know that. So it's just kind of a running joke that we have.
Front row, second row, right, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Luke, how have you gone about fulfilling ticket requests from folks this week?
Well, actually, my family reserved about 100 tickets this summer at the stadium, and they sold out like in early August. So my family's kind of been scrambling, getting tickets together for everybody. But a lot of my teammates have been nice to ask me if I need anything. So they've been able to send me a few through our ticket service or however we have it with the football team. So, yeah, I don't think there's been any trouble. I think everyone that wants to go has a ticket available for them.
And Ryan mentioned that Harry Miller's now back. What is that? Is that still a competition with you and Harry for the center spot, or how has that changed?
I think that's for Coach Day and Coach Stud to decide. I'm just every week coming ready to play and staying prepared.
Second row right, Austin Ward, Letterman row.
When you say there's stuff that you're doing maybe now through game 4 that you didn't do in game 1, is that physical stuff? Is that mental? Like, what are the changes that you can go through in 1 month's time there?
I think, I mean, like anything, someone told me that, like, never to get too comfortable in a routine, always kind of reevaluate and change what you're doing. And throughout each week, I kind of like, whether it's through my film study, maybe don't watch as much as maybe the blitzes, don't maybe watch as much as just individual players, maybe watch more scheme. That's something that I kind of learned throughout these last 4 weeks. Is like, maybe don't watch so much of this, watch more of this. And just little things like on the field, like trying to be more of a leader now and stepping up, using my voice, being a presence in the huddle, and just those little things that I've learned and I'm trying to bring every day.
Maybe for the opener, that was a little nerves the first time you're doing anything. Are you still having those, or are those dissipating a little bit?
I think like anything, there's gonna be a little bit of nerves, but I think, like you said, dissipate just a little bit. I mean, I'm feeling more comfortable and knowing what I'm doing, and feeling more comfortable with what's going on. So yes, definitely, that's for sure.
Second row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
I'm sure you've watched a lot of the Rutgers tape already. What stood out to you about them?
I think they're a well-coached group. I think they do a lot of things on defense that is very interesting. They play a very different front with a tilt shade on me the whole game. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the game goes. But I think they're a very well-sound team, and I'm excited to play against them.
And did they recruit you, and how seriously did you consider them?
Yeah, they recruited me, I think, before Shiana obviously got there. So it was a different staff, a different regime. And like any school, I took it under consideration. And ultimately, I picked Ohio State.
Second row left, Doug Lane-Maurice, Cleveland.com.
How big of a Rutgers fan were you growing up?
Growing up, I was a decent Rutgers fan. My uncle actually had season tickets growing up, so I went to quite a few games. But to be honest, I wasn't like a huge diehard fan, but I did attend a lot of games.
And I know the adjustment for young guys at college can be tough. What's it been like for you trying to find Jersey quality pizza and bagels in Columbus?
Everyone always asks me this. It's been really tough. Bagels, I kind of gave up on after the first few weeks here at school. It's kind of, that was out the question. Everyone could ask me if I wanted my bacon, egg, and cheese on a croissant, and I just kept like looking at my that exists. So yeah, so that was a hard adjustment. But pizza, there are a few good places I found that have decently good pizza. So yeah, no. Definitely quite the adjustment. Probably the hardest one I had.
NIL, you can drop some pizza place names.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's definitely a few places around campus. I know there's one place on Lane that's really good that I like. I forgot what it's called, right by the stadium. But yeah, that's probably the only one that has a decently good Tommy's. Yes, Tommy's. That's it. Yeah, it's decently. Yeah, it has a decently good thin crust pizza. So I do enjoy that.
Second row right, Tim May, Letterman row.
Yeah, look, you was talking about when they're putting a guy right on top of you defensively and stuff. How does it just change your demeanor or whatever as you're sitting there before a play, knowing, if you got the snap down now automatically enough to where you can just concentrate on what's up?
Yeah, no, I think the last 3 weeks I've kind of prepared me because I had a guy on top of me every single game. So now it should be a little bit over to the right or left. So I don't think it's going to really make too much of a difference because I think these last 3 weeks have kind of prepared me really well for that with all these 3-down defenses. So, yeah, no, I don't think I don't think anything of it really. I mean, I think when you try to focus too much on one thing, you kind of get overwhelmed. So it's just out there playing football and enjoying myself.
I know there are several running backs playing, but specifically Travion Henderson. Explain what it's like to be blocking for this guy and then to see him kind of go by you and stuff.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you can say about any of the running backs we got, Master, Mayan, Trey, even Evan, you saw flashes of him this weekend. I mean, I think any of those guys, you give them the ball and they're going to find the right hole and hit it and for a big gain as we've seen. So, yeah, I think all those guys have been doing a tremendous job in practice. getting great looks. And even like one thing that really goes unmentioned is their pass blocking ability. I think all of them have really understood our pass block concepts and have been able to step up and protect the quarterbacks that we've had.
But I tried to pigeonhole you there just on Travion. Is there something special about him as he goes back?
Yeah, I mean,
what have you noticed?
Yeah, I think he's just a very dynamic talent. I mean, you see he's only a true freshman, which is hard to believe. I mean, he's going to have a great career here. I'm very excited to see what he does.
Do you ever think about if you guys, like we just named off you guys from Jersey area, even Matt Jones from across the bay or the harbor?
Yep, Hudson
if you
River.
guys, if you guys had stuck around, you know, if you guys had stuck and gone to Rutgers, what a difference that would have made. I mean, do you ever think about that kind of thought?
Not at all, because then you can look at it the other way. What if we didn't come here? So not at all. I don't try to look at it like that. I'm just happy I'm here. I'm thankful that I'm here.
Time for a couple more questions. Third row, right, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
You said you were learning to obtain a leadership voice this year. How challenging is that? Was that when you're a younger guy, you've got upperclassmen there to kind of break through that discomfort? Is there discomfort?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say discomfort. I would just say it's more of learning how my voice needs to be used and how with our leaders that we do have, we have a lot of great ones of how I can impact the team in a different way than they are. So, I mean, I just think it was just a learning curve of like what is expected of me throughout our team and in the locker room and in the huddle on the field.
You got to be a Springsteen fan, right? Or not?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm from Jersey. Isn't that the stereotype? So, yeah, no, definitely. My mom would probably be very upset if I didn't say I was. So,
Second row left, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
Can you kind of take us inside the game a little bit Saturday night and just your interactions with Kyle and how he was sort of leading that team in the moment? It seemed like shaky early on, but then how did his voice or poise or whatever kind of come along and affect the team?
I mean, like anything, I can kind of relate to it as it happened to me a few weeks ago. I was kind of getting thrown into that role, getting thrown into the fire a little bit. He obviously got nerves the first few plays, and it's kind of just once he got his footing down, got a few completed passes, he was able to catch a rhythm, and you could just tell that throughout the game how he was able to kind of grow on the momentum that he was getting, able to make big plays, step up in the pocket, and deliver the ball. And I think, like you said, like his poise just grew throughout the game, and I think he's going to have another one of the freshmen that's going to have a bright career here.
Have you noticed the shoulder affecting CJ, like the way he was throwing the ball 3 games into this season? Was it different than what you saw from him in preseason camp, just as far as the actual throws?
Yeah, I think CJ, I mean, I'm hoping that he's getting back to being healthy. I mean, I didn't really know his shoulder was even bothering him. So that's more of a question for Coach there, Coach for Dennis. Yes. Coach Dennis. But yeah, no, I think I'm worried about just getting the ball back to him and protecting him.
One final question. So way back to the left, I think that's Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Luke, Coach Dan has mentioned a couple times that Coach Stud was out for a couple of weeks. Was Kennedy Cook running your guys' room?
Yeah, I think Cook did a great job stepping up. Like again, next man up, whether it's on the field or in the meeting room, he did a great job stepping up and kind of helping us through. And it's a great thing that we also have Coach Wilson that was able to come over from the tight end room and help us out a lot too. So I think it makes Coach Wilson, Coach Cook definitely got us through those few weeks when we didn't have Coach Stud.
Luke, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. You got 3 minutes with Matt right there.
What's the deal now?
fellas. All right, folks, we're going to open up the floor for questions for Haskell Garrett. We'll go deep right. Spencer Holbrook, letterman row.
Haskell, as you've gotten to play with him a little more, are you getting comfortable playing with the younger guys like Tyleek and like JT and all those guys around you, or is that still a work in progress?
I think it's just getting comfortable. For them, it's just building up their confidence. I'm very versatile with who I can play with. Doesn't matter. It's just the guy's confidence, and that's about it.
The last couple of years, it seems like the pass rush has started from the outside and worked its way in. You guys have been the beneficiary. What's changed that makes this version of the pass rush go inside out and work from you and go out from there?
It's always been the defensive ends had the spotlight, and so now it's we have a competition on the D line. We're all racing to get to the quarterback. So now that we have more production coming from the inside, it's just competing. Every day is just competing.
Fourth row right, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Haskell, have you become a better leader since you've been here? In what ways? And is it true that did you give a little Thursday speech to the team? Do I have that right?
No, I didn't give a speech to the team on Thursday, but in terms of leadership, it's just patience. Really just hearing everybody's guidance from the coaches, understanding how to be a leader, just have patience and understand it's a process. I went through my own process too here at Ohio State, and so now it's me helping and becoming a better teacher and have patience with the young guys because we are a young team.
How do you do that with young guys? How challenging is that when you've got these 18-year-olds who come in and you're 23?
Mm-hmm.
Just bridging that gap.
It's really just sharing knowledge. A lot of guys in my position like to, keep what they've learned over the years. But instead of that, I want to share my knowledge and help them rise to the occasion and equate the room.
So you've got a competition between defensive tackles and defensive ends. Do you know how many sacks defensive tackles have this year compared to defensive ends?
I want to say there's two from the ends, and most of the 9 came from the inside guys on Saturday.
It's 10-2 right now.
But it never used to always be like that. But it's like I said, competing. We push each other and raising the bar each and every day and each and every week.
The last 2 years, I think the defensive tackles have produced 10.5 sacks all year long. You guys have probably top that number in this next game.
Mm-hmm.
You've been here forever. You've seen the defensive ends. What's it like to finally have the defensive tackles at the forefront?
It's just gratifying to see what we can do, and like I always said, like repeating myself, it's competing. The ends really drive us, and now it's just going back and forth competing.
How much talking do you guys do in practice about that?
Oh, we talk about it a lot. I remember last week, it was our last padded practice. I told Zach, I was like, I bet you I can get to the quarterback before you. And it's just those little competitions is what drives great defensive players or football players in general.
Did you, by the way? Did you get to the quarterback before he did?
Yeah, I did.
Second row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
How close is this defense to coming together and playing the way that you guys expect?
It's really close. I feel that nobody really understands how young this team is. Teams before I've been experienced and played. It's a really developing team, and we're turning into that great team. Took a couple weeks, but each and every day we're getting better and better.
What's the next step? What do you think has to happen?
Just execution. We need to lock in on our assignments and just execute at a high level.
Haskell, we're going to go far left. Brendan Gulick, BuckeyesNow on Sports Illustrated.
Haskell, I was asking Coach Day earlier about how much he's enjoyed watching you grow and just considering what you've gone through the last couple of years. You seem to be playing with a lot of joy, some levity. Can you try to give us an idea of how much fun this season is for you right now and how you're enjoying your role?
I'm enjoying it because I'm not only a player, I'm a teacher. I get the chance to finally be able to teach and share others my knowledge on the defensive line. Like I said, we have a very young group, and it's I find it joyful to teach the young guys what I was taught coming up. You know, being behind the Draymond Jones, the Bosas, the Chase Youngs, you know, the BB Landers, all those guys that were before me. Now I get to share that knowledge that I got from them and pass it down.
Do you feel like maybe you had the ability to fulfill that prior to this year, and now it's just you're the elder statesman in the room, and so they listen to your voice? Or is it truly you feel this year, you know, you've got a good idea of all of that knowledge you've accumulated, and now you have a chance to teach those guys?
Kind of with the second part of what you said, it's just really not only telling them but showing them. You know, nowadays guys like to see results, and I feel that with what I tell them and then telling them in the classroom and then showing them out in practice, then I can bridge the gap between, you know, knowledge and actual results.
Real quick one. Why is Ohio State so special to you?
It's a brotherhood. You know, it's just we all fight for each other, and you know, just with what everything's transpired this year, it really allows guys to see that, you know, we really only have each other. And when we're out on that field, you know, we're in front of 110,000 people, but ultimately it's only 11 guys on that field, and that's who you go to war with.
Second row, right. Tim May, Letterman row.
Yeah. Haskell, you know, I'm not asking you for the whole catalog, but can you give one example of something you've shared just from a technical standpoint, or whatever that you feel like's made a difference with some guys? You know, like you were talking about knowledge you've accumulated. Can you give people like a little insight on what you're talking about there?
Have fun. And when I say have fun, it's just we take this sport so seriously with schematics, with the pressure that we get through social media, through our families. It's still just a sport, and to have fun. You know, you need to execute your job at a high level because we are Ohio State. But at the end of the day, it's just football, and you have fun.
And when you watch Rutgers on video right now, getting ready for this game, what do you see that, you know, it's the influence of Greg Schiano? What has changed about them, I guess? You know, for example, up front, up front offensively, et cetera. What is different about
it? Inspiration. You know, Coach Schiano, being around him when he was here, he's really good talker. He inspires and tries to feel your emotion and your passion, and tries to drive you. And ultimately, you as a player put that out on the field. And I feel that he's done that with his guys. And this is a great football team. This isn't the Rutgers that it used to be. This is a great Rutgers football team, and we have a challenge ahead of us.
Right next door, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Haskell, last year against Rutgers, they ran a bunch of trick plays against you. Do you remember that? Is that something you guys are mindful of at all this week?
Oh yeah, you know, they ran the lineman throwback where I think there was an eligible lineman on the left-hand side, and they did it in the red zone, and then they did they went for two and did a jet sweep with the receiver coming back. And so we're just trying to be prepared for everything. And like I said earlier, just execute at a high level and be ready at all times.
That sort of thing. That was just tricky.
Really, it's just watching a lot of film, seeing what they do, what they've done against us, and what they've done against other opponents. When the field is equated, when talent is the same high level of intensity, sometimes you have to resort to trick plays to just throw people off their game.
We'll close it up unless there's anything more. Second or right, Austin Ward, Letterman row.
So when you're talking about this combination of having fun and trying to be a leader, a lot of it seems to spill out from you after the plays, and you've been, you know, demonstrative, celebrating, you know, really seeming to enjoy it. Is that for you because you love it so much, or because you want everyone else to be doing the same?
It's really for everyone else. You know, energy is fueled by emotion, and what you show on that field. Whenever somebody is having emotion on the field and celebrating, that's when the whole sideline is having energy. And when we have energy, it's hard to stop us. And so that's what I try to emphasize with the young guys, to have fun, because when you have fun, other guys have fun.
Plan out what you should do after big play?
No, I just really you know, it's just to allow others, you know, feed off my energy and yeah.
Third row left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Hey Haskell, you've been here for 5 years. This freshman class that's come in, and how many of those guys are contributing right now? Have you seen something special in that group? Are they further ahead than the typical freshman classes?
Yeah, I feel that, you know, they want to learn. They're eager to, you know, get the knowledge out of the old guys. They're a bunch of sponges basically, and sometimes they get caught up in trying to do things so perfectly that they forget to have fun. So that's why I tell them just have fun.
How exciting is it, like, from your perspective, to maybe see, you know, that growth in those guys, knowing, you know, you've been in their shoes before?
It's awesome. You know, kind of, you don't really see the end of the, well, I won't say the end of the rainbow in their shoes, but really you don't see the results in their shoes quite yet. Sometimes we talk about people's journeys. Some happen more earlier than others. Some happen in their second year, some happen in their fourth year, some happen in their fifth year. But really, it's just about having fun and being able to share with them my knowledge and help them grow is just all the more better for me.
Second row left, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
You guys got Jerron Cage back, and he was able to make an impact against Akron. Why, in particular, is he crucial to being healthy and helping you guys this year?
He's a leader. He's an old guy, and he has experience. He brings a lot to the table. He brings energy, he brings fire and passion, and he's gotten up and fulfilled that leadership role and being more outspoken to the guys. Yeah.
You said something last week in front of the teams. What did you take from that?
Just really, sometimes we get so focused on the moment and facing our opponents, but really we just need to focus on ourselves and how we execute. So that's what he basically told the guys: just focus on, you know, your assignment, your job, and what you can bring to the table to help us contribute to win a game.
And final question, we got one more here from Kid May, Letterman Row.
I don't want to ask more in a row, Haskell, but I do want to ask this. Have you guys noticed what has been the biggest difference since a little bit of the shakeup of the way the defensive coaching structure is, et cetera, with Matt Barnes sort of making the calls, et cetera? What have you noticed that has been different, I guess, for you guys on the defensive side?
I guess
Coach Barnes address you guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I'd say it's just really the whole situation with Oregon, how that situation went down. It's just we've all taken a real look in the mirror at all of ourselves, coaches and players, everybody. The difference really, it's really no difference. The only difference is that, you know, as players, we came together and we decided to really look ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, what are we doing? What are we not doing to be the best version of ourselves? And that's really the only difference.
Haskell, thank you so much.
Thank you.